welcome to another session with Four Leaf Performance. Today I'm joined with Mr. Luke Dillon. So Luke, we're going to be talking between us today with regards to consistency of behavior around habits and routines and why they're important, and some of the things that we've seen, some of the things that we've overcome. So with that, let's talk about habits and routines. Let's have a look at why they're important in business and in our personal life. So if you want to start off with, what are the main habits that you look at as a coach when talking with your clients?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us, and great to see you again, Andrew. Good question. I think I always like to start with time, because I think how people use their time is always indicative of their habits. You know, from the time you get up in the morning and what those activities and habits are that set you up for your day, and I think that normally will give you an indication of what's important to the individual, and it'll also show you where they are in the business, if the business is lacking in their personal life, if there are issues in their personal lives. It'll really give you some background into that. So it is one of the areas that I do delve into when I start with either a new executive team or a business owner, is to say, okay, walk me through your average day, where you're spending time, and then what's transpiring consistently each day, each week.
Okay. What are the things that you normally find when you're looking through that? I mean, do you see a lot of wasted time? Do you see inconsistencies? What do you see when you start looking at time from a time management perspective?
I think the first thing that you'll pick up, Andrew, is inconsistency. So, like, just by way of example, I've got a few clients, they, huge advocates of the 5 a.m. club. Although some of them will say that they'll get up at 5:30 or whatever, but they're consistent. Every day, Monday to Saturday, they're up at 5 or 5:30 or 4:30, whatever the time is. But they have a routine that they follow. And generally, I find that those people that have those disciplines in place in their private life, where they get up in the morning and they follow a routine, you'll see their business is similar. Their meeting cadence has consistency, and how they handle things, that come up in the business, they'll have a system or formula that they work to. Where I see that there's inconsistency and someone says to me, oh, well, it'll depend if I went out the night before, or, what happened. And some mornings I'm up at 5 and some mornings I'm up at 8. Then straight away I can tell you, when I go and look at the business, it'll also have those erratic patterns.
And what you're seeing with, if you've got consistency within the individual, consistency within the business, then you can really start to look at consistency with results, correct?
Correct. Because I think those are the things. It's those incremental things that we do every day in our businesses that give us momentum.
Yeah. And I see, as we're looking at, plan your year, you plan your quarter, you plan your month, your week. What are you aiming towards? If you don't tell, how do you expect to get there? So being consistent to the plan, being consistent to doing the work that needs to be done, being consistent with regards to delegating appropriately, right? Delegating, not abdicating, right? Making sure that everybody is consistently doing the things that they need to do, those habits, those routines, right? Following up with customers, following up on leads, right? Doing all of that work has got to be in a pattern, a consistency of behavior, consistency of language, right? I mean, lots of marketing companies tell you out there, right? Especially branding, you've got to be consistent with your branding. You got to be consistent with your colors. You got to be consistent with your message, especially if you're doing omni-channel, right? One message to all locations. But you've got to be consistent on your brand, your message, what you're offering. Because if you're not consistent, then everybody kind of gets lost, correct?
Definitely. So I think, when you look at that, Andrew, I think just to take that consistency across, I think one of the first things I look at is the communication within the organization, and that generally comes through your meeting or your team meetup cadence.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so what meetings are you having consistently with the team? What meetings, and how good are you as a team at making sure that those meetings occur? Because I find when I start coaching clients and I ask those questions, we have a monthly sales meeting. Okay, what day of the week is that sales meeting? Well, it'll depend. And where there are those inconsistencies, or, so I say, even if they do, sometimes they'll have that date set up. It's the last Wednesday of the month. Perfect. Okay, show me your default agenda for that meeting. No, well, we don't really have one. Okay, so what do you discuss in that meeting? And give me the format. Well, sometimes we'll be talking about this, and sometimes it's about that. So and I say, well, why don't you have an agenda where you've got a topic, you've got an opening, you've got a review of figures or what have you, and then that who's delivering what, and that agenda is shared 2 days before with your team, and people get to add things or exclude things from the agenda. So I think it's those little consistent steps that when you take those things and put them in place, Andrea, specifically with sales teams, and there's that measurement, what gets managed gets measured. What gets measured gets managed, should I say?
Gets managed.
And you straight away, you just from that consistency, you see improvement, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's consistency. So, I look at it from consistency from top to bottom, bottom to top, right? So, and again, it's not being overly regimented, right? This isn't, everybody marches in and salutes at 8 a.m. in the morning. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is consistency of delivery. Processes, right? Why do we drive processes? As we look at processes in a business, why are we looking at processes? It's not just to look at processes, say tick in the box, now you've got ISO 9000. It's to basically say what is predictable, because if your processes deliver on the things that they need to deliver, then the next element takes over. So think of a Toyota manufacturing, right? There is a manufacturing process. Everything has its place. Everything has its steps. And they use what's called total quality management. So anybody on the line can stop the line. But why do they do that? Because they want consistency of results. Hyundai, Toyota, they've all been built on quality products, right? They've tested the bounds of quality, right? You know that when you buy one of those cars that it's going to last a long time, right? That's their claim to fame. But they consistently deliver a great product. They consistently deliver a good system. And that consistency through their process allows them to deliver that product to their customers and happy customers. That goes all the way back into the organization, where that consistency is built in at every level within the business. Total quality management is a way of life in Toyota, for example. So people turn up on time, right? People do the things that they need to do. People have got to do their education. People have got to do the work on the line. People have got to do the right handovers. If somebody sees something wrong, they've got to identify it. They've got to talk about it. So consistency of behaviors dictates an outcome. And this is what I love about, consistency of behaviors and process management, and identifying that. What is the outcome? And then as we look at the outcome, well, how do we measure that backwards? KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. Because that consistency of delivering on KPIs also guarantees the outcome.
100%. So I think, like, when you think of that, Andrew, like, how do we help our listeners today to say, okay, so it's, you talk about a Toyota, and I think a lot of SMEs or founder-run businesses in some spaces, depending on their size and team size, they're overwhelmed by the idea of trying to implement systems at that level.
Right.
So just to give you an example, I went into a business the other day. They are they do fire sprinkler systems, they do fire extinguishers, they do surveys, etc. So
Right.
60 staff members, good revenue, no systems in place, no consistency. So, and their sales graph showed that, good month, bad month.
Right.
I'd say, okay, well, why'd you have a good month? Oh, we did some marketing. What did you do the next month? No marketing. So the minute
Right.
we looked at time, team, money, where's time being lost and spent? Team, what's the service duration of your people, and where you're losing people. And we looked at those things and we just plotted a few basic systems. So I would say to any business owner out there to take, what are your 3 core processes in a business? Number 1 is surely sales. So it's selling your product, which means you need to collect your money, and then how do you manage your people that are doing those things? So with sales, it's looking at consistency there. What are our touch points with our clients? How often do we touch them? Are we following up? Are we making sure they're satisfied? On the money side, it's saying, how often, when are we invoicing? I mean, this business, they had erratic invoicing. I'm saying, well, you're never going to get your debtors days right if 1 month you invoice on this day and the next month it's that day. I mean, it doesn't work. So it was getting that right, systematizing that and making it consistent, choosing one day, which they've done. Debtors days is already improved by, I think, 7 days. And then obviously your team, getting your team and their rhythm right, which is all about communication, which we've chatted about before, and the consistency and regularity of that. So I think it's quite easy to fix those few little things and to build a momentum from there, isn't it?
It is. I mean, in every business, I mean, let's be honest, every business, 80% of it is chicken, right? 80% of businesses are the same. The processes are the same. So as you said, right, every business has got to have a marketing element to it. Every business has got to have a sales element to it. Every business has got to have a delivery, right? And within the delivery, is that manufacturing? Is it operations? Is it supply chain? And then every other business has got to have an output, right? So that's the collection of the money, right? And all the back ends. And then the final is the delivery of the product or the service, right? So every business has got that type of element with it. So the way I look at it is start with the customer in mind first. Okay. So when you're looking at your processes, you're looking at your systems, always start with your customer first. Any process that you do, whether it be in sales, marketing, finance, operations, supply chain, it doesn't matter. Even the final reports, right? Start with the customer in mind. Who is going to consume the information, the product, the service that you deliver? Start with that first. How are you going to deliver that? So start with that with the process. And the way that I look at it is, what are the top 3 things that you have to get right in your business all the time, consistently? 3. Okay, that's it. Let's focus on 3. Yep.
Perfect.
And
give
then
us an example
after
in
that,
business, Andrew, please.
So in that one, so let's talk about sales. Okay. So as we start looking at customers, what's the sales cycle for a customer? So you've got hunting and you've got harvesting. Now you got 2 processes, right? So harvesting is selling more to your current customer. Hunting is finding new customers. All right. So what's the process in that? So let's take harvesting, for example. So you already have customers today. Excellent. So we've got those customers. How are you going to measure the process with that customer? What is most important to them first? Right? So obviously, it's probably going to be delivery of product or service, right? The quality of that product. Great. Let's start from there. How are we delivering that? And we map it back. And I use tools, process flow charts. Figma, for example, is a nice free chart out there. Visio, if you've got Microsoft, there's lots of charts out there. But I will literally document the process flow first, right? And no documents, just flow it.
And how many steps?
And then once you've got the flow, then It depends, because I was doing this with a fiduciary, with a financial advisor a number of weeks ago. And what we found was they thought there were about 10 steps. There was actually 40. So
That's
what we
complex.
found was, right, it is complex, and it's not because of them, it's because of how they have to interact with other elements, right? But when they go through that process, they wrote it down. When we wrote it down, we couldn't see it. When you create a flow chart, you can actually see the steps that you move along. And the litmus test was they draw it out, and I can do it without them. So somebody could literally walk in and do that process without somebody that's got 20 years of knowledge doing it. Now you have a process. Now you have something that consistently be implemented. So what we were doing was, okay, so the process, we flowed it, we identified the documents that need to go in, and then we also identified the systems that need to interact. Once you've got all of that done, now you can put Lean Sigma towards it. Where are we seeing waste? How can we make things quicker and faster and easier? And one of the quickest things that we found was DocuSign. How to move to DocuSign instead of, passing and printing papers out and, the old school way. And some of it still has to be done, but how do you automate that? So
Yeah.
once you've got the system and you've got the process and you've got it documented and you know what systems you're using, now you could go on top and now start to make it efficient. And I think that's one of the challenges that I see with businesses is they try to improve before they know what they've got.
Okay, so
You
you're
cannot
saying
improve if.
that's one of the
Sorry, go ahead.
key things to do first is to build that flow chart and then look at
Yes.
where the gaps are.
Build the flow chart first, identify the documents, identify the systems that interact, and the people, by the way, and then improve. And so, again, remember, version 1.0 is okay, right? We don't need to go to version 5 overnight, right? We've got to make sure that we're doing the right things. So we've got to understand first what is the outcome, and then is there any improvement that we can do? So we can become consistent. So mapping this all out allows you to be consistent. It allows not only consistency within your organization, but it shows consistency externally to your customers, to your vendors, to your partners, everywhere. So if you show up on time, every time, with the right product, with the right service, with the right payment, with the right invoice, with the right engagement, how do you do that? And again, I'm going to go back to sales, right? So we go and meet people harvesting, we're delivering. My next question is, when are you having quarterly reviews with your customers? Quarterly reviews. Doesn't matter how big or how small that customer is. When are you meeting your customers every quarter to ask, have we delivered on our promise? And you show them the data, you show them everything you've delivered, right? And is there anything else we can do for you? And that's a big question that people don't ask. Anything else we can do for you? For the audience out there, if you've not read the book, Challenge Your Sales, go read it. Brilliant book, right?
Who's that by, Andrew? Do you know offhand?
Sorry, I don't know. I don't know offhand, but Challenge Your Sales is a great book.
Sales. Okay.
Challenger Sales, yes.
Perfect.
So all right.
So just if I could ask you a
question
question on that. I mean, if you go back and you think of when you designed that flow chart with that fiduciary company, who did you bring into the room to look at those processes? And if there were 40 steps initially, have you managed to refine those now in version 2 or 3, like you were saying? And what results has it given?
So first of all, we brought in the person that was accountable for that process originally. A lot of it was in her head, and a lot of it was kind of written down here and there. But I mean, there was nearly 15 years of knowledge that we had to transcribe. So we first brought in that individual, then we brought another team member in from that organization, and then we ran through it and we verified that this was what it was. Then we brought the rest of the team in, okay,
Yeah.
and walked everybody through the process. The first thing that everybody realized was, oh my God, how complex is this? We did not know that this is all the stuff that you've got to go. We kind of did know, but we didn't know how complex it was, right? So what we did is we went through that, and then we started to ask questions. Why? Why do we do that? Why do we do this? Why do we do the other? So there's a little tool called the 5 whys. Why? So you ask why 5 times. It's like those seagulls on Finding Nemo. Why, right? But why are we doing this, right? It's like that old adage that, the person is cooking a ham and they cut half the ham off and they put it into the pot, right? And why do you do that? Because that's what my mother did. And why did she do that? Because my grandmother did that. Why did she do that? Because she didn't have a big pot, right? We didn't ask the right why, right? So we didn't
Correct.
uncover the root cause, right? So when we uncovered the root cause, then we identified that we did it because we just did it. So we literally shrank that process down. We invested in some cheap technology. I mean, DocuSign, right? It's not a cheap product. It's a great product, but it's a lot less expensive than a human doing it, and paper and ink and postage and all the other stuff. And it's quicker and faster. So the turnaround time was literally, I think it was 3x quicker
That's
to
brilliant.
turn this process around, right? So the outcome is this individual now has a written process. It's now part of our onboarding. So they actually tell clients that this is how they're going to get their information, right? And again, more and more people are used to electronic signatures now, but we've freed up a significant amount of time for that individual for them to do newer things and more things as this business is scaling. And the new thing that she's doing is actually documenting everything so that they can scale and bring more people in to help.
Yeah, brilliant. And I
Because the
think
business is growing,
those are the
expanding.
efficiencies that
Right?
come, aren't they?
Yes,
From
absolutely.
those building the systems and the discipline and the consistency of just doing it now. That's how we do it. The systems in place, and it also prevents the organization from being, held by one individual. If something happens to that person and all the RP sitting inside their head, now suddenly it's documented. You've got a system. You're starting to build a business as opposed to
Yes,
having to go in and do a job. You've got some trainable material and it's transferable.
yes. One of the biggest killers for business is single points of failure. And a single point of
Explain?
failure is if one person leaves or goes sick or is on vacation, that work cannot be done by anybody else. That a single point of failure in your business actually is pretty serious. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting. I'm the only one that's here. Yes, I know. But get systems and processes in place that automatically do things. We're in the age of automation. Use it, right? Use the systems to automatically do things that you don't have to do. And then, as Richard
Yeah,
Branson says, your job as the CEO is to create the vision, make it very, very clear for everybody, hire the right people, and get the hell out of the way, right? And using that, you've got to have consistency of process, consistency of delivery, consistencies within the business so that you can grow and expand. If you don't have that, if you don't get up and do your morning rituals, if you don't have a plan for the week, if you don't consistently execute on that plan, as we said earlier, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to chase your tail.
correct. Correct, Andrew. And I think that is the thing. And the minute you build that consistency and that rhythm and cadence into the business and that discipline, you see the flow. And having been, in a senior position at Hewlett Packard yourself, you would know that in your teams you had consistency. People knew what was happening next. They knew the rhythm of the business, and
Hmm.
it does have that life of its own. That when someone else new steps onto the bus, it already has its path that it follows. It knows where the stops are, and it's not every day. It's a
Yeah.
new route we are taking.
And this was for every element of the business, right? So some of the stuff that we did, we were regular business, but issues would pop up that we needed to react to immediately, right? Critical issues within the business. What did we do? We had scenario planning. We knew the roadmap. We knew the action plan that we needed to take to get things addressed quickly. We had a plan. We were consistent with that. So anywhere in the world that needed to do something with, let's say, a capture of a unit, right, for analysis, they knew what the process was because we developed it. This is how we consistently did it. That's why we did what we did. Why are we doing this? Because of this. Why are we doing that? Because of that, right? And we were able to consistently deliver on that. The team had a plan, right, that they could even initiate before they even contacted my organization. So they had a playbook in which to run, which
Yeah,
shortened the duration of the actions that we needed to take in the back end.
correct. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, consistency, right? Consistency of routines, consistency of results, right? And by doing that, I know in my personal experience, I mean, by doing things like that, it's I won't say it's easy, but it's capable to reduce some of your effort by 50% at times in some of these things because it's predictable, it's reusable, right? It's easier to get to, right? It's easier
Yeah.
to react to, it's easier to deliver to. So based upon that, why don't we talk about a little bit between consistency? So we're why practitioners. We go out and we're spreading the word about the why. Why do you do what you do? How do you do it, and what do you do? So Luke, let me ask you this: as you've been talking to clients out there that have done the why, what is the difference that you find when people use the why, their why, and the why of the team versus people that have been educated but don't use it on a day-to-day basis? What difference are you seeing with people that are really embrace and understand the why and the team of the why? What results are you seeing from that?
Yeah, Andrew, I think we've seen huge results where we've taken that and put it into team alignment facilitation,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's a weekend breakaway or executive breakaway, and put everyone through the why. And I think the key thing there that's come back in all of those teams or corporations, companies, executive groups that have taken that is to see suddenly not only the understanding in between teams, which improves communication, which means less time spent debating, arguing, battling through those things, water cooler conversations that just don't need to occur. But more specifically, being able to align the right people to the right seats in the organization. Because when you've got a better way person or a make sense, and I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that one of the whys that I've seen to be very effective is where they're complex structures or like in that process you were talking about now for
Mm-hmm.
the fiduciary group, 46 steps. A make sense person can look at that and probably reduce some of it
Mm-hmm.
and really help convey that to a team. So it's a very, very powerful tool, very useful. And it's quite interesting when you see those groups, more specifically if you've got someone with a why of contributes, how much everyone says, yeah, they always the one saying, oh, look, I've learned this today, I've picked up this. So I think more specifically, the value that you suddenly see in players that you've already got on your team that you maybe haven't
Mm-hmm.
recognized before that you can now take value from.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing, right? So sometimes we got the wrong people in the wrong seat. And by accident, right? It's not by design, it's
Yeah,
by accident that a lot of these people are in the wrong seat. But when we've moved them to the right seat and used that, the results have been staggering. Not only staggering for the individual because now they're actually understood, but now they can actually go to a job that they really enjoy, or a role that they really enjoy, and their performance is accelerating, right? They're getting huge value from that individual, whereas before they may have been kind of in the middle of the pack. The other thing that I've seen is when we start looking, so let's be honest, right now, economies around the world are struggling, right? We're in struggling environments right now. In the US, we've got a lot of uncertainty going on, but there's a lot of companies out there that are looking at their workforce and going, I can't afford this anymore. And one of the conversations I had recently was, so you're looking at downsizing your organization. Yes. How are you doing that? And the individual became very honest, and it was literally a matter of revenue, right? The money that they've allowed to spend. And a lot of organizations out there look at that sometimes, right, and start cutting based upon the cost, right? And obviously you've got to do that. By using the why, you can actually identify the right people in the right seat on the right bus. So one of the challenges I gave to this individual was, why not look at somebody at the why? Who do you need in the right seats so that they can deliver more, right, and deliver it better, quicker, and faster? And right, from an organization point of view, if you had cut this person, what would you have been left with? And this is a question I ask a lot of business owners is, okay, yes, we've got to cut, but are we cutting the right person? What are you going to be left with? So if you do this cut, what are you left with, and what person are you going to be put into that seat? And usually you've then got to juggle things around, right? So yes, we've got this cut, we've lost these people. Now what do we do? And now you're forcing square pegs into round and triangular holes. Whereas if you understand the why and the right person in the right seat, now you've got somebody that can perform, and I would say even exceed your expectations. And you can do that responsibly. So you're putting the right person in the right place. You're going to get better returns. Yes, it may cost you a little bit more, but that should improve your overall revenue or margins based upon having the right person in the right seat. So I would look at, again, one of these behaviors is looking at your organization in multi dimensions, and then from there, do we have the right person in the right seat? And literally, I know you and I have done this, but in about 15 minutes, we can figure out what somebody's why is.
Yeah, definitely, Andrew. I think I'm out of our South African office, I'm working with an executive team at the moment, 7 people, 10 years, sitting at about 5.3 years average. They've never been through a led off-site team alignment. None of them. And some of them have been there for 11 years. Never done a psychometric analysis assessment, never done anything like that. And took them through that process, as you're aware. And the change in that team, firstly, we had a deselection on the team. One member stood up at the end of the weekend and said, I've actually come to realize I'm in the wrong place. And problematic team member. The resignation was celebrated by the executives because they didn't obviously have to let him go. He had chosen to leave. But it was based on realizing that he was actually never going to be happy there, which is why he wasn't performing. So I think that was a huge gift to the team. And the communication, I spoke to them the other day, it was a few months ago. Their performance, they've had 14% growth in this last quarter in a sector that where people are, busy with retrenchments and shedding, because now suddenly the team's communicating and they're filtering that down through the organization. And I imagine that they'll end up with 20-30% growth this year as a result.
Yeah. Getting the right person in the right seat on the right bus and being consistent with that across your organization is really, really powerful and can significantly improve the delivery. I mean, and again, like you, I talk to a lot of people in a lot of organizations, and especially the larger ones, right? There's a lot of melancholy out there in certain organizations, right? How many people are sat in a job that they're waiting for the next 5 years to get their retirement, right? Because they've been put in, they're in the wrong role, they're in the wrong job, they're not motivated, they're not energized, right? I've never been more energized in my life, right? And I should be on the a little bit on the coasting side, but I'm not, because everything that I do is trying to do things a better way, and I'm trying to do it the right way and adding value. I mean, that's my why, my how, and my what. That's what motivates me every morning to do things better, not only for my organization, but for my clients. So being consistent with that and understanding that, and not going into other areas that I'm not I'm not enthused about, right? I stay within my lane and I deliver in my lane, and I'm happy, and the company thrives on that. So from a company point of view, I mean, I would always say consistently look at your teams and your members from 365, right? From the emotional side, the delivery side, the KPIs, consistently delivering what you need to deliver, right? And support those behaviors within your organization, and select the right people, right? The right people in the right seat on the right bus.
Totally, Andrew. And I believe that now with the experience that we have within Four Leaf Performance and working with teams in America, out of the Houston office, and Dublin, Ireland, and London, in South Africa, if you put all of us together and we'd say, okay, let's go and interview a team and predict their success over the next year, how accurate would it be? You can walk into an organization now, you take the team, you have a look, you ask a few questions, and you're like, okay, this business, they're definitely not on a growth curve. And that's the critical thing, because it's so easy to fix. But what I loved the other day is I was listening to an audio program, and the saying went something like this. It said, do you have a team that's committed or compliant? And I really thought that's incredible, because if you've got a vision and a goal for that team and they're aligned and they're committed, they will work together to achieve that. But if they're just compliant and they're being managed on KPIs and just, the stick rather than the carrot, you will never achieve that success, because you've possibly got the wrong people on the bus in any event. But they're just not committed. So I really it's something that I'll take into my next few exec teams that I work with, and just look at that immediately. It'd actually be a great question, isn't it? Are you guys committed?
It's great.
Are you
I love
compliant?
that one. Yeah. Are you committed or are you compliant? That's going to go out on a new pulse shortly, right? Are you committed or are you compliant? I mean, that's a brilliant question to ask. Are you committed or are you compliant?
Yeah.
That's an amazing question to ask people.
And I think the answer often is going to come back, Andrew, is committed to what? And then when you ask the next question, well, what's the company vision or the company goal? You're going to see how often we do find that, where people are like, well, we're trying to do X, Y, Z, but there's no clarity. There's no clarity. And that communication is not being delivered consistently in our monthly sales meeting, in our weekly management meeting. That's the opening line. We are committed to our goal is X, Y, Z, and I think that's the key thing. But powerful teams build powerful businesses, and it's the first step is building the team, and then your consistencies below that. Because, like you're saying, when you're committed, you come to that meeting, you arrive, you bring the energy, and you're involved in the process of growing an organization, and delivering beautiful products, to eradicate an issue or problem in the market, and to solve it. So, that's that excites me every day.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. All right, before we go, any last thoughts with regards to habits, routines, consistency, behavior. Any nuggets that you want to throw out there, Luke?
Yeah, I think for me, I think that people need to, you build that rhythm slowly. And I'd say start with one new habit a week, a quarter, a month. And, you know, in your business or in your personal life, it's just doing the one thing and do that one thing. You know, it's that incremental improvement over, you know, they take 2 lines, you take 1 degree, you know, in a year's time, they're far apart, or after 200 kilometers, those lines are miles apart. You won't see the 2 cars. So it's what little change can you make in your life, in your business, that would deliver results to you by the end of the year.
Awesome. I'm going to challenge everybody out there. I want you to go get a spreadsheet, and I want you to put a number. Let's say it's a sales number, and I want you to increase that sales number by 1% every week. And then go look at what that number is at the end of the year.
Good call.
Incremental, small changes consistently applied will make significant impacts in your business. And as Luke says, you can start with one. Make one change, get that down, get it consistent, right? Do that every day, every week, every month, every quarter, right? My one, do a calendar. Set your calendar up for the following week. What are you going to intentionally do and follow that calendar? And on the calendar, not only what are you going to do, but what was the outcome?
I
Right?
like that,
The
Andrew. And
outcome.
where can they share that with us? What would be the best four-leaf performance platform to share their one thing with us on?
You know what? Send it to us. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. I mean, any platform you're out there, come and join us. We're happy to talk. If you want to contact us, the links will be in this video. Come and join us. Come talk to us. Have conversations. Right? Come learn. We've got a YouTube video that we post videos every week of learnings and nuggets. Go there. Go look at it. Subscribe. With that, Luke, thank you as always. Appreciate your insight and wisdom as always. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Good to see you.